Hey, can you pull over at this gas station at the next corner? Because I want to stop and leave a tract so I can get my time started. Okay, I'm ready to go now. Let's hurry up and get to the Kingdom Hall so we can meet the group for field service before we're late.
You're listening to The Critical Thought, where we challenge our listeners to use critical thinking when examining the teachings of Jehovah's Witnesses.
Okay, JT, unmute your mic.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Critical Thought. And this has been JT here at you. And we got Lady Cee and Colin with us this evening. And we got a few others who will probably be coming in a little later on. We want to welcome all in the audience. And as you know, this is a subject that has been talked about. I mean, it's buzzing. And the reason why this subject is such a buzz about counting time is because of the implications and interesting, probably some of the ramifications that we're going to see in this organization because of the counting of time. And we will invite our audience, please share with us your thoughts on this change that the organization is taking now of no longer counting time. And we're going to discuss some of the things that, interestingly, how this whole thing came about, counting time is absolutely amazing. For those of you who have followed our channel for some time, you will know we have discussed the issue of counting time. And now it's almost as one of the videos that we did a while back, from truth to trash. The Watchtower is throwing the counting of time into the trash. So be sure to share what your comments are, and we'll try to highlight as many of them as we possibly can. And to kick things off, we want to start off with our friend Colin. Colin, we have a quick question we want to ask you, man. What was your first reaction? We'll get into what it might imply and what might happen, but just what was your initial first reaction when you heard that the annual meeting was announced?
Yeah, and thanks for having me guys here as well. First reaction right off the bat was disbelief. When I saw the video, I actually watched a video because someone had sent me the link, and I watched it, and I was like, is this, someone, is this like, what do they call those videos? The deep fake or something. I'm like, is this real? And then when I actually saw the announcement on JW.org, it just kind of sank in. So about 2 seconds later, my reaction was a little bit of anger, just because I knew, immediately everything that is implied by that change, what it meant for me from being a witness for years, just how important time was for everything. That is your basically spiritual identity. How faithful you are, what kind of standing are you in the congregation. Everything was related to your field service time. And so once again, as we've seen so many times, with just the stroke of a pen, or in this case, as I mentioned, the stroke of a pinky ring, it just is gone. Another procedure of Jehovah's Witnesses that's been around for decades and decades, just gone, just like that, with a little announcement.
Yeah. Lady Cee, when we got a call from our friend Wendell, and he mentioned this, what went through your mind when you first heard that there will be no counting of time, tracks, magazines, return visits, nothing? What was the first thing that went through your mind?
It took me a second to process it. And I was like looking at my text, and I was like, what? And I'm not gonna lie.
So I walked away from my phone. I didn't even do anything with it. Then we got a phone call, and our friend Wendell, he goes, "Did you get my text?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And then he starts telling me, and I'm like, "Oh," because I was just still kind of like shocked to the whole thing. I'm like thinking, am I really reading this correctly and all that kind of stuff, you know? And then I immediately, once I began to start processing, started to say, I really feel like they are trying to use this to keep their members from hemorrhaging. It must be just that bad, where how do we keep the people that we have here, you know? And so I was saying, can you imagine the number of people in the last year? And if you also want to go back 5 years, might have stayed if they got that information, because that, like you said, Colin, that was the information that kept people so frustrated and stressed out, because that was like your spiritual pulse, was how much time you counted.
Exactly.
And so it just kind of makes you wonder if they're really trying to stop the hemorrhaging from this, from losing so many members. But then other people that I've talked to since this announcement has come out, they really feel like because the numbers are so low, that there's a possibility that they're just saying, why? Why are we doing this? Why are we keeping track of hours? They're just so low. The numbers are so terrible. Why don't we just stop the practice altogether? Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I've heard people comment that they thought that JW.org had been hacked, and somebody went up there and posted something trying to be funny and cute and everything. I mean, because that's what would act, and I understood that. I understood that, because you would think this got to be somebody playing a trick on the society. It's not even April Fool Day, and they're playing this trick on the. No, this is real.
But what you also got to think about too, JT, is the fact that, I was talking to an individual who actually, has been leaking the information from the organization. And the comment that this person made was, they are looking at all of these videos that people are doing in the ex-witness community at Bethel. And we always knew that they would be tracking what was going on. And so can you imagine them watching videos or looking at comments from people talking about how they're cheating on their time, and they're really just reporting bogus hours as well? So I guess after looking at all of the evidence and everything that's going on, it's hard to say what went on, as you always said, why those men were sitting around the conference room table at Bethel, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think that you're very much on point, that the numbers are so bad that they have removed them. And this is not the first time. I remember when I was an elder, and some of you may remember this, the Watchtower published how many people were disfellowshipped for the year. And then they stopped. And I remember having a conversation with a body of elders, and we was with the circuit disc overseer. And one guy, threw out the question, why does society stop putting out the number of disfellowship? And he specifically told, he said, the service just felt that the numbers would be too discouraging, the number of people who disfellowship. And of course, as we had often heard as elders, that basically for every person who is disfellowship, it's about 2 to 3 people who are being reproved. So you're talking about a huge number that we're going, that the audience just has all kinds of problems. And I think that you're right along the lines of they're trying to slow down the hemorrhaging. And we see that. For those of you who haven't, we have a video that deals with counting the numbers, how they count the numbers. And it deals with why they change the time for pioneers and so forth, is because it allows them to lower the number down, lower the requirement down, and as a result, you get more people to pioneer. And that's what this change will be. Just before we went live, Lady C and I and Colin, we were just discussing how the society is doing the same thing now with publishers. For many years, and we did a video on this, and people came up and they said, "You lying, y'all don't know what y'all talking about. I never heard of this," and that was because they didn't do any research. The 10-hour rule. Jehovah's Witnesses were required to get 10 hours. Now Jehovah's Witnesses for decades were required to get at least 1 hour to be considered a publisher. 15 minutes if you were on the sick and injured reserve list. Now, because they have now removed this, we're talking 2, 3, 4 minutes a month. You can still be counted in the yearbook as an active Jehovah's Witness. So I think one of the things that we may see happen is that the numbers actually may go up, because now people who got 20 minutes, 10 minutes, I'm a publisher now. People who got less than 15 minutes, I got 5 minutes, I'm a publisher now. And so they're going to inflate these numbers, and they're going to come out, Jehovah is blessing us, Jehovah is blessing us. I mean, it's really sad. It's really sad.
Yeah.
You know, for the people who may not have seen the message, I'm going to go ahead and add this to the stream.
Okay, go ahead.
So here it is.
Yes.
So it's interesting. I'll go ahead and just read it for anybody that may have not seen it. But on October 7th, 2023, now when we had the opening of our live stream, we had a skit that we did from one of our videos talking about stopping at this, gas station to get the time started and everything, right? So now you fast forward to October 7th, 2023, at the annual meeting of the Watchtower. The following exciting announcement was made. Beginning November 1st, 2023, congregation publishers will no longer be asked to report the amount of time they spend in the ministry, nor will publishers be asked to report their placements, the videos they show, or return visits. Instead, the field service report will simply have a box that allows each publisher to indicate that he or she shared in any form of the ministry during the month. There will be one more box where publishers can report the number of different Bible studies they conduct. Missionaries, circuit overseers, and their wives, special pioneers, regular pioneers, and auxiliary pioneers will continue to report the number of hours they spend in the ministry, along with the number of different Bible studies they conduct. And then it talks about how there's further information about this adjustment will be provided in coming weeks. And for those of you who may not be aware of it, this is what that field service report looks like. For those of you who, don't have access to this app, this is an example of the kind of statistics that the Jehovah's Witness had to report on their timesheet. Not only that, but for anyone who may not be familiar with Jehovah's Witnesses that may be in our audience, be sure to check the description of this video. And we have 4 videos that we've done throughout the years about why do Jehovah's Witnesses count time. And that will kind of explain the timesheet, how it got started, and how we landed where we are today. Okay?
Yeah, that's very powerful. And we want to thank our super chat friend for supporting our channel. It is so important that people understand that when you're talking about something that impacts people's lives, and you have them led to believe that this is part of what God wants them to do, then you snatch it away with the blink of an eye and say, just move on. This is really, really sad. Our friend Superfood, perhaps he makes a point. He says, the Watchtower and them play too much. And that's true. They play with people.
Oh, hi, Laquita. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, we often tell people, we often make the statement that you can't jack with folks' lives. And that's what they do. They jack with people's lives. Yeah. I mean, it is amazing. And when we, as was mentioned before, thank y'all for so much for those comments. This is a type of documentation that we want people to have. A number of channels and different other YouTubers have already did a presentation on this. This thing, it needs to be told far and wide. That Jehovah's Witnesses in the back room, where people don't see or conversations are not heard, this is how they operate. This is how these people operate. Tracking something is how many videos you show to someone. And now to say all that, oh, you don't have to do it anymore. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But you know, Lady C and Collins, you know, it does raise some very interesting scenarios for this organization. And one of them is, how do you now go about appointing elders and
Yep.
ministerial servants?
Exactly. And that was such a central part of before. That's why with this, I was really perplexed by Sam Hurd's comparison that he made from the Bible, because it would have made perfect sense to me, perfect sense, if he would have said, you know, back in ancient Israel, you know, Jehovah wouldn't judge somebody because their tithing was less than somebody else. You know, everyone has personal circumstances, and you can't judge someone because of that. So, brothers, because of that, we have this new arrangement. No one's going to send in a quota anymore. Just send in whatever you want as far as donations. That would have made perfect sense. But he goes and applies tithing to counting hours in field service. And I'm going, what? That makes no sense whatsoever. It's there's no correlation there at all. Counting time never made sense.
True.
From day one. And now he's so I'm sitting here going, well, how are you going to be able to tell now exactly what you're saying, JT? How do you know now? What standard do you hold brothers to now? And I'm going, oh, you know what? I bet now, for the first time probably ever, they're actually going to use the biblical requirements. Instead of, oh, you know, you need to be out in service, you need to have at least 10 hours and stuff like that, which had nothing to do with it. You know,
So
Right.
now
that's Colin. That's an interesting line of reasoning. In fact, one of our posters put a comment in. What do you think about that comment that this poster left? And we want to thank the Mr. B for his comment. He says he thinks that it has to do with them allowing them to be able to appoint more elders and ministerial servants. And I think he's right. Because remember, they've already lowered it to you can be 21 years old, 22 years old, and you can be an older man. Now, you got 6 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. I remember being in elders meeting. I've shared this many times before. Man, I would get home late at night and watch the comment section for anybody who's been an elder. When they comment, watch some of the posting. How we would sit around arguing over, man. I mean, we would take the kingdom ministry and say the national average is 10.4. And man, we would have elders who would argue. Well, you see, the society branch is 10.4, and we just calculate the brother is 10.2. He's not meeting the national average, JT. We can't. I mean, and you'll be going round and round.
over points.
You're like, oh my God. The man's family is doing everything. His wife, his kid, but his average is counting time. And now all of a sudden it has no meaning.
Yeah. Well, and that's part of the reason why I felt upset when I first heard about this, because one of those such things that happened during our lifetime was one of my earliest videos was I gave an experience of how I was pretty young at the time, and I was a pioneer, and we went to a hospital to visit this brother that was in the hospital, and I parked in the clergy parking spot, and this brother flipped out. I mean, I'm not kidding, flipped out. Well, you can't park. We're not clergy. We're not. And now it's like, boy, what I would give to see that person now and go, well, now we got clergy. Now we have clergy. Yeah, they've said it in court.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I mean to cut you off. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, now we got clergy. Now all the grief we got about all these years about time, not having enough time, you know, and this and that, and getting your time in, and when you can count your time, when you can't, and stuff like that. Now the time's gone, and I'm sitting here going, wow, you know, this is amazing. I think the most recent, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong here, I don't know if you know, but I think the most recent organized book was what, 2022 or 21, right around there?
Yeah, they
like a year ago.
Kind of hard to keep up.
A book that was Jehovah's arrangement for his organization 1 year ago, right now is now apostate literature.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
In one second. Now all of a sudden, it's gonna be getting sold on Amazon. Yeah. You know, and I'm going, wow. I mean, just like that, because when I was reading all that chapter in the organized book about why we count time, And that's why Sam Hurd he never said one thing about what's in that book,
No.
about what's in that chapter, because all the things make sense. Yeah, okay, yeah, Jehovah kept meticulous records in the Bible, and we need to know how growth is. We need to know where we need to send more literature. And then the overseers, they can act because we can tell them, well, this place is struggling. And it's, how do you unexplain that? You can't.
That's exactly right. That's exactly
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Now Jehovah decided, if Jehovah knew about, he didn't judge people for tithing 3,000-4,000 years ago. He just told his organization now in 2023. I mean, it's just insane.
I have a question. I want to throw this question out there because when I was regular pioneering, I knew what it meant to get my little time in every month. When I stopped pioneering, I also tried to support other pioneers to help them get their time. So people would, join up with you, make arrangements so that you could go out and field service with them so they can get their time. So now that the rank and file don't have to do count the time the way we used to, what happens to pioneers? Like, I'm just talking about the pioneers or auxiliary pioneers. Who's going to help them get their time? What if you only have one pioneer in the congregation?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you have everybody else can go to Krispy Kreme and sit there for 2 and 3 a minute. No, I should say 30 and 40 minutes.
Yeah.
But the person that's on the clock still is the pioneer. So that's going to still affect them. That's going to be kind of difficult.
I'm guessing that now that the regular publishers don't have that requirement anymore, they're going to find some way to keep shaming people into going out in service, because they'll be like, well, no, everyone should have the circumstances now to, you can help the pioneers because you don't have to turn in time anymore. So they're going to find some way. I mean, there's always got to be some way to make you feel bad.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the only way they're going to be able to get you to count, you gotta be a pioneer. And I was in contact with a young lady from Africa. She explained her experience to me. She said that the Watchtower is making them feel bad because of the lower requirements of pioneering. And she said they're starting to make them feel bad because, why can't you get these hours? So she said that they're really starting to feel the crunch over in Africa.
That's true.
The same thing they were doing to us here. She said it's pretty bad there.
Yeah. It's sad. I want to thank outs to Grandma Goddess for supporting the channel, as well as William Johnson. William made a point. He said, I think of how much judging we do of people based solely on service time, and how many brothers would get into it with their spouses over field service time just to keep their privileges. And that is so true.
Yeah.
The brother's wife, they would look at his time. They would look at his children's time. And this was, think about this. When the circuit overseer comes, he only comes for 2 reasons. The first 2 things the circuit overseer does: 1, he makes the records a good check of the money. He's going to go over the money. And the second thing he goes over is the publisher's record card. And based on these numbers, he will evaluate who is who in the congregation. He looks at your time and he sees 2, 3, 1 hour. This is a low publisher come. Over here, this brother get $13 a month. He's a publisher. He's a fine brother. And so everybody who's watching this stream, they know, as you're listening to me talk to you right now, you were judged by that. And as a former elder, I hate to admit, I tell you, it's painful. But I have to admit, I judge people based on on basically these are government numbers, man, company numbers. And the reason why is because of how we were led to believe the role that they played, and they played no role. They're trashing this stuff now. This stuff is trash.
I wonder now how they're gonna gauge people's spirituality. Is it like, oh, they checked the box this month? Oh, I got to check. They're good. That's it.
That's it.
They participated at some point. You don't even have to say where now. No, you just, I talked to somebody. Well, it's going to be easier to lie than ever.
Think about this. When I was growing up and when I was in part of the organization, we always recognized 2 types of witnessing: formal and informal witnessing. And so if a person was turning in a lot of time for informal witnessing and it surpassed his formal knocking on doors, counting time type witnessing, that person was always pulled to the side. I remember circumstances giving talks, well, brothers, we can't allow our sister so-and-so, she got 9 hours, but 8 of them are informal witnesses. I mean, she only did 1 hour in field service. Now, that's not how we do it, brothers.
It's because he couldn't see them.
You go to the Kingdom Ministries and you go to the elders talks and you'll see all this stuff. Now, according to this announcement, they're going to accept both.
Yeah.
Which means now you and I both know one of the most hated things for Jehovah's Witnesses going from door to door. They, as a witness, that was the most dreaded aspect of being one of Jehovah's Witnesses, is dragging up to people's houses on Saturday morning, going out in field service when it's raining, it's wet, it's cold. Now, I'll just make a phone call real quick. I'll just stop by the store. I talked to my coworker for about 20 minutes at lunch. I'm active. I can still check the box. And that is going to be the most important thing, is making the witness feel good. I feel it's okay. I can check this box because I was active this month. And
That's
so
right.
the numbers, man, are going, I can expect the numbers are going to explode, because everybody knows when you lower the standards of anything, then everybody can get in. So now anybody can be a Jehovah's Witness.
That's right.
We have a question.
Yeah, and
We have a question.
that was like why before, and I had this happen to me personally many times where I got talked to about that, because the whole thing was you had to be seen. You had to be seen.
Yes,
and if you were in formal witnessing, they would tell you straight up. They'd be like, well, yeah, but brother, we can't see that.
Yeah.
We don't know if you talk to somebody or not. I mean, that's great, but you got to be visible. That was a big thing for a brother.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Because y'all supposed to be taking the lead. That's why. But
yeah,
you're supposed to be taking the lead. So how you gonna be taking the lead and they don't see you, right?
The way I see it now, those brothers who were doing that were way ahead of their time. They were now they can do it.
Right. Well, here's a question here. What role did the legal department play in removing the time requirement? Think about it. Something to think about.
Yeah, that's a good question. I have no idea. That's a good question.
I don't know. I don't know if I've dealt a lot with in my line of work. I've dealt a lot with health and safety and things of that nature. I don't know. I've never done. I should probably do research on this, because technically it could probably happen. If you got hurt out in service, you could probably sue the society for like a workplace accident. I don't know if anyone's ever done it, but
well, keep in mind that the organization has been really emphasizing this whole thing about you're not members.
Yeah,
you're not members, and this is what makes the organization such hypocrites, man. I've always found this to be very hypocritical. The organization wants to count anybody who is unbaptized as part of this group. When they go to the media, we have 8 million Jehovah's Witnesses, 8 million, 8 million, 8 million. Okay, that's what they throw out all the time, and they run it together. We have 8 million Jehovah's Witnesses. They literally run that number together. But the moment that somebody gets in trouble, who's not baptized, he's Jehovah's. We'll know him.
True.
I mean,
he's not a witness.
They will distance themselves from the same people that they brag about, who they include to make their numbers look larger. One of the numbers I always found most interesting when I was a secretary was the home Bible studies. I remember when the organization instituted the arrangement for families to be counted as home Bible studies. Made no sense. Why are we putting a report that this family is studying the Bible? That makes no sense. Well, it does if you need the numbers to go up. So overnight, every single family started counting themselves as a Bible study, which now makes the annual report look like, man, this is a big number. The problem is, do you realize when I was a secretary, I would see this is so-and-so, their family study. So you would have maybe like 60, 70 Bible study reports that are being reported, but you only got like 12 actual Bible studies from people in the neighborhood, people in the territory. Everybody else just study with their kids. Well, that's what they're supposed to do. What was the significance of a father saying, I'm teaching my children about Jehovah each month? What was so significant about that? It needed to be reported as part of some report at the end of the year. But this is what you do when you play with numbers. As we've always said, numbers don't lie, but you can lie with numbers. You can
There
make
you go.
numbers mean anything that you. I mean, it's amazing
That's
how.
right.
I mean, so when you look back now, this is all they have been doing is playing the numbers game. It's all a
Yeah.
numbers game. I mean, it's all.
Hey,
Well, and there was
JT,
I'm great. I'm sorry.
did you already discuss the letter of introduction?
No, that's. I'm glad you brought it up.
Okay, so then Colin, go ahead and finish your thought out.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, yeah, no. I was just gonna say that what JT was saying about the family Bible study, because I remember when that started, and before that, you weren't really supposed to do that. That wasn't. You couldn't count time just because you're talking to your family, and elders would make a point of that, of like, oh, you can't be, you can't be counting times you're talking to your kids. That's that that's like he said, you're supposed to do that. Or if you I remember an elder pulled me aside specifically when I was already a ministerial servant, but I was pioneering, and he made sure that I understood that I wasn't counting time because I was out pioneering, that I would stop by this nursing home and go visit a sister that was in the nursing home, and he would just make sure that, hey, bro, I just wanted to make sure, you pulled me aside. I just wanted to make sure that you can't count time if you're visiting. Yeah, I know that, but it was so uncomfortable. It was like, yeah, okay. I mean, they were so neurotic about, obsessed about if you were counting time for something you weren't supposed to, and now it doesn't matter.
It don't matter anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, the same thing returns.
Remember that window of opportunity? Do you remember this a long time ago? They had some article about sacred service and keeping your automobiles clean.
Yes.
All of that could be considered sacred service, and they had to shut that down.
That is it.
You count time at the car wash now.
Remember that?
Oh my goodness, I remember that. Witness, I'm keeping my yard looking good, so I'm giving a witness in the neighborhood. If all the neighbors see my grass is cut and trimmed, that's my sacred service. I mean,
again, now we're there.
Oh man.
Again, now I'm out here vacuuming my car out. There's 30 minutes.
Oh my goodness. I mean, I remember, the sacred service. They came out with the washing the car and cutting the grass, and a lot of the friends jumped. I'm gonna tell you, whenever the organization gives the witnesses a chance to get away from doing what they have always been doing, witnesses will take it. When COVID hit, so many witnesses were like, "I'm so glad we're home. I'm so glad no meeting tonight. I'm so glad we got this Zoom." I mean, and so this is what. And so when it was time to go back to the Kingdom Hall, the organization experienced the same thing as any other corporation. Their staff did not want to come back to work. Their staff didn't want to come back to work. I mean, we know people right now who they realize Zoom has been the best thing in the world for me and my family, because we had to be at the Kingdom Hall and worry about them brothers. And so this is amazing, that the combination of not having to go to the meetings because you can use Zoom. And now you can turn in 4, 5, 6, 7 minutes and be counted as an outstanding Jehovah's Witness. Man, do you know what type of environment that's going to create in this organization, man? You talking about some people who got a lax, they don't care. The organization, they have opened up a Pandora's box.
Yeah.
They've opened up a box, man.
But
go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, but do you realize that, remember how Ray Franz talked about in his book that they were trying to determine when they should make the change for 1914, that teaching. And they kept having a discussion, and they kept on deciding and debating, and then they ran out of time, and they had to change it.
Yeah, they did.
So, they're always probably deciding and debating things. And I think maybe COVID could have pushed this time thing a little bit further ahead than they really was anticipating. They probably have been discussing that too. So you got to remember that there's a lot of things on their timeline that needs adjusting. Like, think about when we did our first YouTube short. We did a YouTube short about how we used to get a subscription to the Watchtower and Awake magazine. And people began to put comments in our video saying, they did? Really? Are you sure? Are you? And I actually had the wrapper, that little brown wrapper that it came in. And we had put that in there. They were not believing it. They could not believe that we used to get subscriptions to to the Watchtower and Wake magazine.
Yep. And
so
charge for
now
it.
we got this situation with this time. Pretty soon, in another 5 or 6 years, people are going to be challenging you, saying that we never counted time.
Yeah. Well, and that's what happened with, I talked a while back about right around the end of the 80s, early 90s, when Watchtower filed a appeal on behalf of Jimmy Swaggart.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why in 1991, I believe it is, where they used to print on the inside cover where the subscription was, there was a price.
Yep.
There was a price. And because they lost that appeal, they got rid of that's when the worldwide donation thing started. Was right, and people, no, I don't remember that. So you can not remember if you want to. It's the truth. I got this off of a secular website about the whole Jimmy Swaggart lawsuit that happened, and Watchtower filed suit. And it's funny how, that's another issue when you look at that, how we were taught our whole lives about under no circumstances were you ever to do anything with another church or even step on church grounds or anything like that. But when it's in court, that didn't apply, because they filed that lawsuit together with the Krishna faith and all these other ones they got together, and it was headed by Watchtower. I thought, well, that's kind of interesting, huh? Guess that doesn't apply for lawsuits.
I think they call it. So it's a court brief, friend of the court brief. But yeah,
friends of the court.
Right. Yeah, you guys are right. And in fact, I think everyone just make notation of what Lady C said. That, and because just make notation of this. In a few years, there will be people who we will talk to who are either current Jehovah's Witnesses because they're new, or others who they will call us a liar.
Yes.
We never had to count time. Y'all just making up stuff on Jehovah's Witnesses. And because what we have found, Colin, my wife and I, is there are basically two types of people who you will find on these channels. In terms of, there are people who are new to this organization. And so they lack any historical context as where this organization has come from, what this organization has done, and they don't know anything about it. Then you have those who are known as deniers. There are people who were there. They lived through that time, and they will actually deny it. 1975, I ain't heard nobody say anything much about that. Every talk, every meeting, that's all they was talking about. In fact, that is what, and we used to, when we did our Jehovah's Witness in 1975, we showed all of these articles written by worldly people who were like, we're going to see what's going to happen. The witnesses have been talking about the world going to end in 75. We're going to see what happens, because that's what people were hearing coming out of the Jehovah's Witnesses. And so they went into that, what we refer to as the some brothers. And those some brothers have always been those who were in leadership role. Fred Franz was one of those some brothers.
Some brothers.
So it was some brothers, right? And so this is what makes it so amazing when this religion does this.
I already had the same as what happened to you guys. The same thing that happened to you guys. And this just, for me, was the same thing. It's already happening. I've already had people saying that I'm lying. Oh, I never had to do 10 hours. That was never, and I'm like, what reality are you living in? Yeah. Is this person, I don't know if they're just lying or if they believe that. I'm like, you always had to have an hour requirement if you were going to serve or have any privilege in the congregation. And people are already saying, oh, we never had to get 10 hours. And I'm like, wow. That's talk about denial.
The count of time is,
did you, JT, did you ever know, I don't know, the people that you maybe met in Bethel at some point, there was a circuit overseer named Jack Thomas, and he was assigned in Minnesota for a while, but he was the Mr. Shoot from the hip. That was his big thing from the platform. He would shoot from the hip, because he would just say whatever, he was real direct. But I remember that it just stuck in my mind all these years, how he gave this talk, and it was like one of these shaming talks. It was to make us feel bad because our congregation's hours were low. And it was like this epic illustration that he gave that everybody remembered for like ever for the rest of your life, where he talked about, can you imagine, he said, Noah building the ark, and he said, look at this, I was going over the congregation, the publisher cards, and there's all these 2 and 5 hour publishers, 2 and 5 hours every month. He's like, imagine Noah going out there, well, Jehovah, okay, I put up my 2 boards for the day, I'm good. That's it. He said he'd never finish the ark if he was putting up his 2 boards every month. I did my 2 boards this month. I nailed up my, so everything that was like a running joke in the congregation was, hey, did you nail up your 2 boards this month? And now it's like, well, the 2 board Noah, he's an outstanding publisher now.
Yes,
He only has to, he can nail up his 2 boards and he's good to go. Whereas before, that was to shame us and make us feel bad.
Yeah.
Right.
I just want to say thanks. I want to just
go. Are you going to talk about the? Are you going to talk about the letter?
No, actually, I just want to give out a shout out, some thanks for some of the friends supporting us. S-Man, we appreciate. S-Man makes a point. He says we would spend hours in going in circles in the back room trying to appoint brothers who were good men, but just missed the national average. It was a crazy time.
Yeah,
and that's so true. Someone else made a comment. Darth Magod said this, and thanks for the financial point as well. It says, Colin, Lady C, JT, opinions on how this will impact the annual report and how they report their volunteer hours for taxes. Is that the one that you was referring to earlier, Lady C?
We talked about this before. We talked about this before. Yeah, somebody had said that. Somebody had said that they believe that the reason why they were so concerned about whether we were counting time or not is so they could keep their tax status. That's what somebody had mentioned to me.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah, I've heard that. And if that's the case, I wouldn't find that surprising at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't find, if it was, I would not find that surprising at all. Not with these guys.
They're nonprofit. They're nonprofit, right?
Yeah.
Well, at the end of the day, I mean, with they're still going to have the hours from pioneers, missionaries, circuit overseers, regular, the special pioneers, and you send that. That's an app now, I guess, not the little white sheet we used to fill out, the little slip. So you send that off to the society, and what they do from there, they can do anything they want with that. They can change those numbers. I don't know about other countries, what their tax situation is. I really doubt it here. Like, Central America, South America, they don't get any help from the governments as far as being an organization. I mean, it's pretty much, they look at it as just like a business, basically. It's your own private thing. So at least in this region, that's not going to really affect them in any way. But I think in these parts, it's going to have that kind of, I think it's going to backfire in a lot of ways, in the fact that people aren't going to participate, just like when Zoom came around. Zoom was like a drug. And then all of a sudden, it's like cold turkey. You take it away and you got to come back to the hall now, and nobody wanted to.
No.
So,
Oh, you got that right. I know people right now that they got family members and they said that they refused to go into the Kingdom Hall.
Yeah.
And I remember
they going back.
Remember when we went to we were out of town and we visited this one congregation. We were just going through the lot and we saw a note put up there, and they were saying something about making sure that you didn't come to the meetings if you had any symptoms of being sick, and don't try to infect your brothers and sisters with your illness. So I said, I bet you people played that one. Oh, my nose is running. Oh, I had a little cough. Oh, I mean, with that kind of a note in the front, nobody would be going,
Yeah.
Yes, it's true. Yeah.
Right.
One of our supporters, Edward Dunlap. Thank you so much for your financial support, Ed. I appreciate it. I want to read what Ed said. He's on point. I mean, he's on point. He says, let us not forget, when we as former elders reviewed brothers, we also looked at the wife and the baptized children cards.
You bet.
to make
Yep.
sure they were out in service, towing the organization party line. I'm in heaven now, but this is sure funny. And he's right. I mean, we poured over. We would sit back there, man, and we would have brothers who had calculated. Give me his last 6 months. I'm gonna take give me little Tommy's last 6 months. I'm gonna add these up real quick. It came out to 10.1. He's good. He's good. He's
Yeah.
I mean, I remember.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, and you
man.
guys remember too what happened when, and this is a dreaded thing if this ever happened to you, because, if you didn't go out in service for a month or you didn't report your time, what happened? You became irregular, right?
Yes.
And so now you had to toe the mark for 6 months
6 months.
after that and turn in your to be back in good standing. So it was like, oh, you better, Armageddon better not come in the next, oh man.
Right.
All you now
I'm
need
not
is
good with
4 minutes.
Jehovah because I missed 1
4
month,
minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
When they
Yeah.
get rid of the hour of basically having at least 1 hour and basically having 15 minutes, that thing has now dropped down to 4, 5, and 7 minutes. If you can,
Oh my God.
if you can verify that you got 7 minutes according to these new rules, and you can rest assured, Colin and Lady C, there's gonna be Jehovah's out there gonna be like, I got my 4 this month. So now think about this. You have families. You have families now who are gonna take this Saturday. They're gonna make 3 or 4 phone calls on Friday night. Just talk about 2 minutes. In fact, they're gonna call like 8 people and all of them gonna hang up. They're gonna still count this time. They're gonna say we get our time for the month, and they're gonna take their Saturdays back. They're Jehovah's Witnesses who plan on going to the lake. They going fishing. They going out to the mountains. They're gonna have a ball. As we was talking before, and they're gonna say it's easy being a Jehovah's Witness now. And that's ironic because we dogged other religions. They don't really do anything. We're out in ministry. Now,
Hey, JT.
hey,
This is what I would do. Okay, September, isn't it September? There's only 30 days in September, right? So September 30.
Yeah.
Oh, no. I would take the last day
you mean
of the
October?
month. I would take the last day of the month. This is what I would do for all of you Jehovah's Witnesses who are listening in on this broadcast. This is the way to do it.
Listen up, guys.
Take the last day of the month all the way to 12:01 a.m. Go into the next, and then get up, write a letter, do something. That's your time. And then you ain't even got to wait till the sun come up and you already got your time.
You got it.
Right?
You get your time for the month. I wrote 2 letters this month. I'm good.
You're good.
I wrote 2 letters.
Now all you got to do is go to the next meeting, check that box, and you're on your way, man.
You're on your way.
And now you can go. Now you can go to college. You can get that new job you've been always wanting.
Oh my goodness.
Right?
Yeah, this can be a domino effect.
Oh, it's
Yeah, why can't I go to
this
college
religion,
now?
man, by doing this, they have literally made themselves into a joke. And
Yeah.
And this is one of the things that Lacey and I talked about. And I want to get your thoughts on this, Colin. And for those of you in the audience, I want to get your thoughts on this. Please share your thoughts on this. One of the most ironic things about being a Jehovah's Witness is how you literally have been so conditioned that when the organization takes its foot off the back of your neck, we were thankful. We had a conversation with some friends of ours just a few days ago, and his wife made a point. He says, we literally thank our abuser. We're thankful for them not abusing us anymore. They're going to be Jehovah's Witnesses. I remember when they got rid of one of the meetings during the week, everybody was like, it's so wonderful. The society, the organization is giving us a free night. And now you're going to see Jehovah's Witnesses say, it's just so wonderful that the brothers, they've taken away the report as if they are doing you a favor. They're doing you a favor. And Jehovah's Witnesses, we were thankful to the people who put their foot in the back of our neck. And then when they took it off, we're now thanking them. Can you imagine what the average person, if somebody had a foot in the back of their neck, when they took it off, it would be time for a butt whipping. And yet, as a Jehovah's Witness, you're so conditioned. We are thankful that someone is giving us something that God already gave us. And that is, I mean, it's sad, man. And that's what we're going to see. I mean, I've talked to people, and their family are so thankful that the brothers are doing this for us. How loving of them to do this for us. When they use this, I wrote something down in my notes. I want to read this. This is what I wrote in my notes. Counting time was used to hurt people.
Mm-hmm.
I'll read it again. Counting time was used to hurt people. When I was a secretary of my congregation, one of the most painful things I had to do was each month was when I had to call up friends. And when they would pick up the phone, they would know, people would say, Brother JT, I know why you're calling. I know why you're calling.
Yeah.
Well, yes, I mean, just checking to see did you have any time this month, sister? And you could just hear the tremble in their voice. You could hear how they felt defeated as a Christian. And one of the examples I often, and we're talking to people, is this example. We had a sister in our hall. She was a member of the Anointed. Okay? She was of the Anointed. She was involved in getting congregations started here in Washington. When there was nobody here, I mean, they were just nobody. We started the first congregation, me and my husband, our family, it was us. Okay? This woman was of the Anointed. She was up in age. She had pioneered. She had slaved for this organization all her life, man. She got old. She couldn't do anything. And I used to try to tell her, well, sister, Jehovah remembers it when you was in your youth. Well, I'm failing Jehovah, Brother JT. And I remember I called her up and she says, she was about to break down and cry. And I said, well, why do you feel so bad? And this is what she told me. This is what she told me. Because we was moving into the 6th month of her being inactive. Okay. She was in the irregular public. We were going to go into inactive at 6 months. She said, because I won't be counted in the yearbook this year. And I said to myself, oh my God. And so I'm sitting here trying to explain to this woman, look, Jehovah remember you, whether you're in the yearbook or not. But that was all that was important to her. She knew that she would not be counted as a good Jehovah's Witness because that's what the counting of time determined. It determined whether you were considered a good Jehovah's Witness or not. And we had all kinds of terms: a weak publisher, low-level publisher, low-hour publisher. What was the one the lady asked us about, Lady C? What was the woman asked us to tell us about?
Double digit.
Double digit. Are you and your husband a double digit publisher? Like a double digit? It didn't even dawn on me. But that's what she meant. She was a district overseer's wife.
The district overseer's wife. It was a sister who was recently reinstated.
Yeah.
And she was coming to the hall. She was so excited about being reinstated. And the district overseer's wife was there. And around like 7 or 8 of us was standing there. And she was talking about how she was out in service. And she says, but wait a minute. She says, are you a double digit publisher?
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Double digit. Not no 9 hours. I know 8 hours. 10 or more.
Yeah.
Double digit. Right.
Yeah. Well, Lee Davenport, I want to thank you for your support as well. Tim Smith, we thank you as well. He said, I remember brothers not wanting to be appointed brother, a ministerial servant, because of the low hours. But the brother was getting more hours out in field service than the brother not wanting to appoint him. And I know that's for a fact. There were elders who got less hours. They got less hours than the people they argued about in the back room back there. Thanks for your support, Tim. Grace, we thank you as well. And we appreciate you guys as well. We definitely appreciate you. Francis, thank you so much. We got NB Jonathan. Thank you so much for helping us to understand the real truth about the truth. As me and Lady C often say, we have to pay, all of us have to pay it forward. Someone helped us. The least that any of us can do is help somebody else. I think about, the people who helped me, the questions I had, stuff I just couldn't put the pieces, because it's like a puzzle. You talk to average ex-Jehovah's Witness, they'll tell you, I knew something was wrong, just couldn't figure out what it was. And once that ex-Jehovah's Witness, once that person gets the confirmation, they're leaving the organization. Even if they can't leave physically, they're going to leave mentally. I'm like, I can't do this no more. I'm on the radar right now. Yeah.
Well, one of the things we were talking about when we came in before the live stream started, anytime that you put a difficult system on people, whether it be a prison, whether it be any type of oppression, people always find a way around it, right?
Yes.
They always find a way around, like we were talking about how, with the system before, like the pioneers and the people that had really that load of hours on top of them, they had all kinds of little tricks to getting their time started, to, all these little things that people came up with, all these little loopholes.
Yeah.
And so can you imagine now with no time requirement?
Oh man, the
Like,
loopholes.
Lady C mentioned, people are going to be going out boating. They're going to be, I'm taking my time back. I want those weekend. I'm not going out on Sunday. Heck with that.
No more
that,
guilt tripping. It's just no more guilt tripping.
No more guilt.
Right.
I remember people not wanting to go, not being invited to gatherings and things like that.
Yeah, your hours too low.
Yeah. Well, it's like JT said.
You see what Tim said? Tim Smith made a good point. He says, I knew a sister that was a regular pioneer and would get her hours in 6 months.
Yeah.
But she would go out every morning to the bus station and stand for 4 hours. Tim, let me share something with you. The first time I heard about that concept was when I was at Bethel. There's a guy, he is now in legal. He actually works in the legal department. We used to work together in the bindery. He was a regular pioneer who was out in California, clean pools and so forth. He used to tell us all the time how, because in California, especially Southern California, the weather's nice all year round. A lot of the pioneers, man, would get their time, like Tim said, in 6 months, and they would take the rest of the year off. And it would tick off the elders and it would tick off the CO, because they're like, well, you're not supporting the rest of the congregation. The congregation needs you out there supporting them on those days. These regular pioneers, they did what was called banking hours.
Yeah.
He said, man, they would leave the Kingdom Hall after the meeting, because in California, Southern California, sometimes, man, it's still 89 degrees. They would go down to 7-Eleven. They would be out at 12, 1 o'clock at night, getting their time. So they end up banking all their 1,000 hours. They would get it banked. And they would they would just be off. They wouldn't go out and field service. We taking the rest of the year off. And so it had nothing to do with preaching and teaching. It had to do with getting the hours. And once you remove this counting of hours, which is what forced so many Jehovah's Witnesses to go out and knock on doors, because they know we got to show something for the month. We got to show something for the month.
Yeah.
Now they don't. And so the Watchtower has unleashed an interesting aspect of people that they're going to see. And over a period of time, it's going to be interesting to see how many people use this as their way to literally skate. And for some, this will end up making them leave. I mean, there are going to be people going to look at this and they're going to say, you know what? Man, this thing is bogus. Let me just make my complete exit so I can go ahead and live my full life. I'm not going to want to even just stay, because I can't do this. This is ridiculous. And so, I mean, it's going to be very, very interesting how this plays out. I mean, it's just going to be so much.
Well, JT, if you were still in the organization and being the secretary of the congregation, and someone's moving to a new congregation, how is that letter going to be written? How are you going to deal with that, with this new arrangement?
Yeah.
Man, that is going to be absolutely fascinating, because that was one of the things in the letter that you would often explain. And then you would say, as you brothers can note in their publisher's record card, they're low hours. They need help. But now everybody can be low hours.
Yeah.
David says, go ahead. He said, go ahead. I was going to read David's letter.
Go ahead, JT. Go ahead. Yeah.
He said Ed Dunlap was a friend of Ray Franz. When Ed left Bethel, he went out to Oklahoma City to live with his brother. And they conducted the first elder school. Oh my goodness. For those of you who don't know Ed Dunlap, he was a brother who was at Bethel. He was one of those prominent Bethel elders, used extensively by the organization. I mean, he was like a key point man. And he and Ray Franz, they realized it. And we blowing smoke in folks' eyes. we blowing smoke. And as a result, they had, they left the organization. They was just castigated. I mean, they were just dogged for life. These men had relationships with people for 30, 40, 50 years, probably overnight, as if anyone else who's disfellowship knows, you will lose all your friends and family. They're gone. So, I mean, it's amazing. I want to thank Mises as well. Mises makes a very good point.
Oh,
And this,
I'm kind of like late putting. I'm kind of like late putting these up here. I didn't.
Yeah, I can see them.
I was kind of slow scrolling through here.
I'm
I think you were reading all this Grace Walk. Thank you. You said who now?
There was Micey. He made the point. Micey made the point that this is damage control, and that goes back to what Lady C mentioned. That they're trying to mitigate producing and writing in print what the numbers are, because they know the numbers are not what they want them to be. They know they're not what they want them to be.
Yeah. Well, I think you can expect them to, you know, the elders and everybody else are gonna start becoming more nitpicky about little details, how you dress, you know, your personal appearance, because the main gauge of whether a person was, you know, spiritually strong or not, or if they were weak, or if they were bad association, was their field service time.
Yeah.
And then they would get into other things like who'd they hang out with, how would they dress, things like that. Well, now they don't have the field service time anymore, so they got to criticize something. They're going to find some way to weed people out.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're going to do it exactly, but you know, there's got to be some way of marginalizing people. You know, it'd be interesting to see what marketing talks are about now.
I know, right? We want to say thanks to Chester Francis, Chester Francis. He's a friend of the family. he's real close to the family. He's real. Believe me, he's real close. He's very close to the family. Oh man, thanks, Dad. Then we have Jeremy. Jeremy makes a point. Says counting time is as important as making your time count. That's deep. That's
yeah.
Adrian makes the point. Thanks, Jeremy, for the support, the channel, as well as Adrian. Thank you as well. He says, "What do you think will be used as a new metrics for spirituality of the truth?" That's that we were discussing that, and we've been talking to other friends. I don't know what they're gonna use, man, because they always use the time has been the matrix. What do you use now? I mean, what do you use?
I don't know what it will be.
The number of comments you give. I mean, and this idea of just showing up a field survey, that don't really matter. Friends said, "Well, I was doing return visits," you know.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I mean, this is going to be interesting. Wes
Well,
Allen says, what does Wes say?
Hey,
what did Wes say?
How you doing?
Yeah, hey Wes, how you doing? Wes says, "I remember in order for me to be a ministerial servant, they always stressed the 10-hour and taking the group out, so I could be seen, and they really wanted the older sisters to see me taking the lead out in service." Yeah. The 10-hour rule. The 10-hour rule became the unwritten 10-hour rule.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and the way we were talking about before, the way things are going, you know, if this keeps going this way, man, we might be tempted to go back.
We was laughing about that. We never can go back. A lot of folks say, "JT, y'all guys gonna go back?"
This being a witness is pretty good now. Dang.
Because
people are going to be welcomed with open arms, because that little checkbox that they haven't been able to use is going to be in full effect, and people are going to start feeling good. I think it's going to be for a little while.
Yes, it will.
People will probably start to feel good because there's no, like pressure. But my question would be, what would be the next thing that would be next to being a not counting time? What do you think would be that next pressure point?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Boy, that's a good question.
We can let me put it this way. One thing we can rest assured of, the organization will find something. They'll find something to beat them with. Yeah, they'll find something.
I would say
commenting. Well, maybe it will be commenting at meetings.
Yeah.
You're not commenting enough,
Not commenting enough.
Yeah. I would say that if we kind of look at the progression of how things have happened, in the last few years, how they started selling off kingdom halls, consolidating congregations, and then some doctrines started to disappear. The yearbook disappeared. Now it's the counting time is gone. I wouldn't be surprised in the next few years if attending meetings starts to go by the wayside.
Yeah,
because if you look back, okay, their tendency is go more digital. They're selling off properties. Okay, everything's on broadcast now.
Oh,
It's on
you're right.
screens now.
Go ahead.
So you want to talk about something that's totally inefficient? It's making people drive to a Kingdom Hall. I think eventually it's just going to be like, we'll just have one meeting a week. It's going to go down to something like that eventually.
Yeah, I think you're on point. Lady C and we were discussing, for example, I think that they will. I can see the organization. One of the things they've been pushing is this personal ministry. If you listen to Hendricks talk on all the interviews, he's always talking about this is their personal ministry. This is their personal ministry. I can see the organization taking families and giving families the opportunity to get a cart.
Yeah,
they get your own little family cart. And so you can have like 3 families on Saturday morning. Where you want to go? Let's go out. We're gonna go out to Krispy Kreme, and you got 3 carts out there. All 3 sisters over there talking, and you got 3 brothers over here, yitty yaddy, and then you got the kids. They're old enough to manage the cart, and that will be their form of field service. They won't have to talk to anybody. Anybody walks by, go to jw.org. All questions will be answered. What were you saying, Sister David? I tell you, girl. I tell you, go to jw.org. That's what they will be doing. I can see them. We have someone not too far from our house. There's a metro, and these people lazy stuff. I said, "What you stop messing with folks." They told her they're there from 7 to what? 7 to 10, 7 to 11,
7 to 9,
7 to 9,
7 to 9, 7 a.m. in the morning to 9 a.m.
So every single morning they come out there, 3 of them, 3 folks, man, in 1 cart. And they get 2 hours a piece. That's 6 hours for 3 people standing a cart, not talking to anybody.
Yeah, yeah.
By the end of the month, they got their 10 hours basically. So they feel now I've done something. I have preached this month. And so with the Watchtower getting rid of all the magazines, when the Watchtower went online, I thought they were going to move their magazines online. I understood. Well, we're not going to print these articles because paper and magazines are going out of style. I thought they were going to just simply move them online. Everyone watching this video knows exactly what happened. They didn't move 48 magazines online. They are down to what, like 3 magazines? Like 1 magazine is new a year, and they're going to do 2 old reprints. Can you imagine what has happened to the writing department? There's nobody needed in the writing department. At one time, they were kicking out 48 magazines a year, pictures, graphics. All this research was done for these little Mickey Mouse magazines, for 48 of them. Now they're releasing 1 brand new magazine. You don't need anybody in writing now.
No.
You don't need any. You can write that 1 article up on your iPhone. And so all of a sudden, it's like, wait a minute. They got rid of the magazines. They got rid of the magazines that they were giving to the public. All they're giving to the public now are flyers and tracts.
Yep.
There's one thing I want to encourage everybody to do this evening who's watching this video. I want you to do something for me. Go to jw.org. I want you to go to jw.org and go and look at what the Watchtower is offering as an example of a free home Bible study.
Yeah.
I'll say it again. I encourage every one of you who's watching this video, go to jw.org and go to the section where the Watchtower is going to demonstrate to someone what a free home Bible study looks like. When you take the free home Bible study that they are offering, you will begin to clearly see why Raymond Franz said what he did. He says that the Watchtower writes their publications on about a 3rd grade level. I remember, Collins, when I went there the first time, I told Lady C, I said, I don't believe this.
Yeah.
The level on which they are writing is almost Jane has the ball. Run, spot, run.
Yeah.
The Watchtower publication has become nothing more than cotton candy. At least, I was talking to Wendell, one of my buddies. At least at least when we were coming along, they gave the appearance that it was intellectually in depth. Not anymore. Not anymore.
No.
In fact, what the Watchtower is doing is what we as Jehovah's Witnesses condemn. A few years back, we all know that the Watchtower made the announcement that they were getting out of the prophetic business. They realized they had failed. After 100 years of pretending that they could explain prophecies, Watchtower Announcement. We're gonna get out of that. We're gonna get out of that stuff. No more
Yeah.
types and anti-types. Moses had one shoe on the left foot. That pictures us walking on the left side of the street. They decided to get out of that foolishness because they realized they didn't know what they were doing. They didn't know what they was doing, and instead they are now preaching basically what they condemn other religions, almost like Joel Osteen. Happy living, good quality of life. That's what the witnesses are now preaching. They are literally becoming nothing more than any other church. That's all they're doing. Becoming any other church.
But do you think that's what they want to do? Do you think that's what they are trying to really ease into, though? Because when you think about it, I think that the counting of time was the most stressful thing ever. That was the most stressful thing. Because if you were like, we also know about this fellowshipping and shunning, but if you know that you weren't doing anything wrong, you weren't worrying about that, but you did worry about, meeting attendance was up there too.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Nothing was up there like went out and field service.
And we do that because even if you didn't attend the meetings, and think when I read that statement about I said, go ahead. Time is used to hurt people. That's what I said, right?
Yep.
When you hear stories of people relate how their mama or their daddy was in the bed sick, in the hospital sick, nobody in the hall came to visit them, and then when the brothers finally come by, do you know what we have had people tell us point blank? These elders had the audacity to ask, "You got any time for the month?"
Yeah. Can you believe that?
This man is laying there dying. You ask him, "You got any time? You got any time? Can I get that gold watch and give me your time as well while you're at it?"
Yeah. That's insane, but real.
It's insane. It's an insult. It really is.
Well, I think my prediction is, and this is not long term. I think in a few years, you have to look at this from a business point of view. You have to look at it from construction. Okay, Ramapo is happening for a reason. Ramapo means whenever they finish it, they're sinking what into that $200-300 million, something around there.
Yeah. It's
okay,
big dollars.
You don't build a place like that unless there's a major change coming up in the future. What I envision is that when that happens, because they've said it's audio visual, okay, the organization, my prediction is that the organization next few years, Ramapo starts going up, okay, and might be a slow transition, but they're going to end up just telling people, okay, we're going to have, it's going to be kind of like a homeschooling thing. We're going to have, your circuit assembly, you're going to have your regional convention, and we're going to have 1 or 2 meetings a month online. They're going to be through a screen. We're going to send you the materials. Here's what you have to study. These are what the topics are. See you then. Be prepared. And that's it. That's what I think is going to happen eventually, because if they're spending so much money on productions, that means they're going to be putting a lot of effort into making videos, broadcasts, and there's a reason for that, because you can see them already by what they've been doing with their real estate and consolidating congregations and all this other stuff. They're getting away from the Kingdom Hall.
Jehovah's
that I think is going to be the next ground-shattering, earth-shattering thing, is when they start telling people to, hey, you don't have to go to meeting anymore.
Yeah. I firmly believe that they will soon become the North Congregation bedside congregation.
Yeah,
it's going to be a televangelist. They're going into the televangelist business. There's no question about it.
Yes.
It is very obvious. They will be a televangelist organization in a few years.
That's right.
The preaching work as we have known it, they will not be doing any preaching. In fact, they don't do any preaching now, and they're seeing this. The cart witnessing does not engage in any preaching work for all practical purposes. They are simply billboards. The door-to-door, because now they've gotten rid of the hour requirement, no witness is going to feel any obligation to get up on Saturday morning and go and knock on any door. He has no need to get up because I don't have to get my time. I already got my time, because I can use my informal time. It's very important people understand this. Jehovah's Witnesses are going to use their informal witnessing as their time. And this is where this whole thing about one's personal ministry comes in. Well, brother, this is my personal ministry. This is my personal ministry. This is
Right.
this is how I preach, brother. And they're gonna be good, and they're gonna let it go. And the reason why I believe all of this at the end of the day is because the Watchtower has now locked in the congregations financially. Whether you at the Kingdom Hall or not, don't matter. They're gonna get their check regardless. See, the Watchtower, and if it was a brilliant idea, most churches they tithe at the parishional level. Watchtower tithes at the circuit and congregation level.
Yes.
Anybody who's an elder, you can ask any elder, if the congregation comes up short on their remittance money to the Watchtower Society, do you know what they're told to do? Y'all won't get toilet paper this month. Because we're going to take congregation funds and put it over here to make sure that the organization gets, as they say, gets its money.
They're going to get it.
And that's what it is. And so the organization, like I told you before, man, we was having this conversation with a couple people, man. I would love to see that spreadsheet, man. They have a list of every congregation's number and what they're supposed to donate. For the first time in the history of this organization, they know every month how much they're supposed to get. Click, click, click. And if it comes up short, send some letters out to the circuit of those cities and tell them to jump on those friends and say, brothers, we made a vow to Jehovah that we would promise to give X money. Brothers, are you giving what you promised Jehovah? That's going to be it, man. And so whether you show up at the Kingdom Hall or you leave some tracks and you stand out there in the cold and stuff, they don't care about that, man. They got this thing locked down. And that's why I tell people often say when there was a lot of people saying organization's going to go on, the organization's not going to go nowhere. Religions don't die. They just simply reinvent themselves.
They reinvent themselves. That's right.
That's all they do. They reinvent themselves. The fact of the matter is we have the privilege of seeing this transformation before our own eyes.
Right.
And not having to be a part of it. Oh my God. I am so thankful I got out of this organization, man. Oh my God.
Yes.
I was my wife, man, Colin, I got guys that we were buddies at Bethel, man. I tell ladies this all the time. These boys, see, when a Bethelite leaves Bethel, there are two things you can do. You try to stay in full-time service so that you can either get back into Bethel or get called into the traveling work. I got buddies, man, that left Bethel with me. Okay. These boys are still trying to get into traveling work, man. Decades later, they're trying to get into traveling work. I got a friend, man. We was buddies, man. His wife was in my congregation. Lady C, they was friends. They have been in Kentucky for 30-some years, probably. If they found this is not the truth, I don't know, because his wife was a New Yorker. I mean, girlfriend was a straight up New. There's a song. It's called Native New Yorker. If you never heard it, go Google it. It's called Native New Yorker. It describes this sister from top to bottom. She was born and raised in New York. Everything about her was a New Yorker.
Yeah.
And she packed up. She packed up and moved out to West Virginia. And they moved to a place, man. I mean, and so if she was to find out this is not the truth, I cannot imagine how she would handle that emotionally. To realize I spent all these years, decades out here waiting to get into traveling work, and this ain't even the truth.
Yeah.
So if you are a PMO, we understand. Take your time, make your transition, get out when you know it's the right thing to do. As we have always said on this channel, man, if you are ignorant of Jehovah's Witnesses in the year 2023, it's by choice. You have chosen to remain ignorant of this organization.
Absolutely.
There is too much available information about this organization where you can sit down and ask critical thinking questions and give yourself honest answers and decide, is this the direction I want to go? And I tell my wife, I tell other people, I don't know how emotionally people are going to be able to deal with the fact that many people came onto these channels and argued with us. Y'all are liars and this and that, and you're making stuff up. For them in another 5 or 10 years to realize, boy, that guy was right. I thought
he was right.
I cannot imagine, because see, when we came along, you didn't have anybody that was trying to tell you, take a look, man, take a second look, man, dude, take a second look. We had nobody tell us that. Today, every witness gets that. Every witness gets that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's going to be interesting. I mean, it really is. Lady C, Collins, we don't want to keep our people online people volunteered to come to the show. We appreciate everybody who came out tonight, supported us financially, supported with the channel. Thank you so much. We try to cover topics in a way that people can say, you know what, I might not agree, but it is true. And if when a person tells me that's a good feel, JT, I don't agree with you, but it is true. I give you that. It is true. For me, that there's nothing that makes me feel and my wife feel better than to know that we just shared something with you that you didn't know, man, or that you now need to give a second thought to. And this changing
it's all
the time,
about.
I think this is so important. Yeah.
Major.
Ladies,
It's major. It's major. This is major. Here's what I think about this change in the time. It's like, what's that guy's name? Malcolm Gladwell. He has a book called The Tipping Point. You know, and so at this point, with this change, which way will you tip as a Jehovah's Witness with this information?
Right.
You know, it's like the tipping point is either going to tip people further back in, or you're going to tip yourself out because you realize that you were one of those people that was so traumatized by the numbers. Now they're dropping the numbers and you're like, I lived all of that for nothing, you know?
Yes.
So it's going to be interesting to see which way people tip in or out. Never know.
Yeah.
And like I said, I just want to thank you, Collins, for sharing your thoughts as well.
No problem.
Think of all of you in our audience. We thank you. And the big thing for me is thanks for the comments, because as people watch this video in the next few days or whatever, they will see people just giving personal testimony. Count time was crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, my mom, man, my mom drug us out in the bad weather because it was the end of the month and she didn't have any real time. That's what happened to me as a kid. Okay. We should have been staying home, but we were out there in that snow, out there in that rain, and we should have been staying home. And now for Jehovah's, it's like the witnesses who went to prison for alternative service, and now people don't have to go, and they're like, oh, it's wonderful, we can do alternative service now. Yeah, but those guys went to prison.
They went to jail.
And so, and so the way the organization works is very interesting. Once a time has passed, the witnesses, they shut down. Yet they will knock on doors and they will take magazines to people's homes. They will talk to their neighbors about things that happened in their church in the 13th century.
Well, I think it's getting to a point now where, you know, as these things come out, like right now, they got rid of the time. You know, the brothers are just at this point, like, you know, whatever. They okay, yeah, we don't have to do time anymore. They tell them tomorrow, hey, you don't have to come to the Kingdom Hall anymore. Okay, well, thank God, we don't have to do that anymore. Like you said, when they take when they take their foot off your neck, you're actually appreciative of it. Like, oh God, because all this stuff that they put on us all these years were a burden.
Yeah,
you know, having to preach. I'm sure when the carts and all of that. Oh, thank God, we don't have to go knock on doors anymore. You know, because you talk to any witness, nobody likes doing that.
Nobody likes doing door-to-door, and so most witnesses, I believe, are going to simply ratchet over. If they do anything, for the most part, it'll be like informal, was talking to people in their jobs, their family, the mailman, you know, staying at the gas station. Somebody says, this gas is high. Sign the time. Yeah, we did the last day. And they'll count that. They'll count that and use that at the end of the month.
Absolutely.
Hey, everyone. I tell you, any last comments, Lady C or either Collins?
No, not really on my end. I think, you know, we covered all the possibilities.
There it is. Native New Yorker by Odyssey.
Okay, I'm gonna look that up.
Yeah, this sister was a native New Yorker, boy. I mean, she was cold. The reason I says she almost got me killed one day, man. She almost got me killed one day. Let me tell you what happened. Our territory was in Harlem, and this was during the time when crack was king. I mean, crack was king, man. And so you would work these brownstones, and I hated it, man. That's why I hated it. There'll be these dudes sitting on the stoops outside. You walking up, you come with your suit and tie on. Sister got a dress on, high heel shoe. And so you come, these guys got a hat turned around back, but they sitting in the gangster style, right? And so, how y'all guys doing, man? I go, hey, what's that? That's going to be. And you trying to be halfway cool without getting killed, right?
Yeah.
So she's standing behind me. And so we're walking in. We're going into this brownstone. I'm in front. I'm going up the steps, and she's behind me. And all of a sudden, I hear her say, "You got something in your eye?" And I'm like, well, when it was the guys, they were winking at her. Well, see, New York.
Oh my gosh.
Man, New York sisters don't play that. If it had been a sister from Kentucky, she might not New Yorkers. And so she would be like, "You got something in your eye?" And I'm like, "Don't do this. It's gonna be me. It's gonna be me. He gonna beat up." And so this is the type of sister she was. Great, wonderful person, man. Just wonderful person. But she was a straight up New Yorker. She didn't take nothing off anybody. And for her now to find out that this is not the truth. Oh man, I tell my wife all the time, says, you know, she probably won't make it. She will have a nervous breakdown. She found this is not the truth.
Yeah.
After the sacrifices that her and her husband made for this organization, oh my God, she will have a nervous breakdown. And so we just say thanks to everybody. We're gonna wrap it up. Collins, if you could stay on just a few minutes so we can wrap up the StreamYard and make sure it downloads okay.
Absolutely.
But for everyone this evening, we hope that you have enjoyed the show. We hope that we've enjoyed the comments and the support that you guys give. We hope that this video can be seen by many as we had discussed all the different aspects of how counting time never should have been used and called part of Christianity, because it was used to judge people and to hurt people. And that's what it did. And if you expect the Watchtower to apologize, I got a bridge to tell you. This has been JT.
And this has been Lady C.
And Collins, our guest. We thank you all. Peace
Thank
out.
you all.
Have a good night, guys. Have a good night, everyone.
Guys, love you.
All right, y'all guys be
all
good.
Right. Bye-bye.
Bye.